The hegemony scout ships lingered in Earth's orbit, their crystalline hulls reflecting sunlight as Commander Zixberg considered his next move. His initial defeat was unprecedented, and he knew the Council would demand explanations. Retreating to the command deck of his flagship, the inevitable Conquest, he reviewed the battle footage with growing fascination. Replay the defense pattern of their North American installations, he ordered his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Mevelov. The holographic display showed Earth fighters, primitive combustion-based aircraft, performing maneuvers that defied the hegemony's predictive algorithms. When faced with superior firepower, the humans had scattered in seemingly random patterns, then regrouped to attack from unexpected vectors. It wasn't just unorthodox, it was adaptive. They're improvising, Zixberg realized. Each human craft is making independent decisions rather than following central command protocols. Mevelov's facial tentacles twitched in confusion, inefficient, and chaotic. They should have been easily overwhelmed. And yet they weren't, Zixberg replied, zooming in on a particular engagement where 3 Earth fighters had sacrificed themselves to protect a ground installation. They value different outcomes than we do. Victory at any cost, even individual survival. Meanwhile, on Earth, an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council convened in the underground bunker beneath Geneva. Representatives from every major nation sat around a circular table, faces illuminated by the glow of screens displaying the aftermath of the alien attack. General Helena Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force stood before them, her uniform still dusty from the battlefield. We've recovered components from 3 downed alien craft. Our scientists are already reverse engineering their propulsion and weapon systems. How much time do we have before they return? Asked the Chinese representative, his voice steady despite the unprecedented crisis. Rodriguez gestured to a young woman in civilian clothes who stepped forward with a tablet. Dr. Emily Chen, head of xenotechnology at MIT, has been analyzing their communication patterns. Dr. Chen tapped her screen, projecting intercepted alien transmissions onto the main display. Based on the signal strength and light speed limitations, their nearest base must be in the Alpha Centauri system. That gives us approximately 3 weeks before reinforcements arrive. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 3 weeks to prepare for the return of an enemy with technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. The Secretary General finally spoke, her voice resolute. Then we have 3 weeks to become a species they will regret having discovered. What followed was the greatest unified effort in human history. National borders became meaningless as scientists, engineers, and military strategists worldwide collaborated with unprecedented urgency. Former enemies shared military secrets. Private corporations opened their research facilities. Religious leaders called for unity across faiths. In Houston, Texas, engineers worked alongside their counterparts from Beijing to integrate alien power systems into Earth's defensive grid. In Bangalore, India, software developers reverse-engineered hegemony targeting systems. Beneath the Antarctic ice, a coalition of nations constructed Earth's first faster-than-light communication array using salvaged alien technology. Most remarkable was the psychological shift. Humanity, which had spent millennia dividing itself along countless lines, found common purpose overnight. News of the attack spread across social media platforms worldwide, and instead of panic, there emerged a collective determination. Millions volunteered for defense forces. Civilians organized supply chains and evacuation procedures. When Commander Zixberg's report reached the Hegemony Council, it included an observation that would prove prophetic. This species has evolved through constant conflict, both against their environment and each other. Now we have given them something they've never had before, a common enemy. I fear we may have awakened something that has been preparing for this moment through their entire evolutionary history. The Council dismissed his concerns. After all, what could one primitive world possibly do against an empire that spanned the stars? They would soon find out. Dr. Krezoth's laboratory aboard the Hegemony science vessel, Eternal Inquiry, hummed with activity as she examined the latest data from Earth. Surrounded by holographic displays showing human biological systems, she found herself increasingly fascinated by these strange bipeds. "Look at this," she said to her assistant, gesturing to a neural scan of a human test subject captured during the initial invasion. Their brains form new neural pathways at rates I've never seen before. When faced with novel problems, they physically rewire themselves. Her assistant, a tall, spindly being named Vextor, leaned closer to examine the scan. "Is this adaptation or a fundamental design principle?" "Both," Dr. Krezoth replied, pulling up comparative data from other conquered species. "Most sentient life evolves toward specialization. The Mindurians developed telepathy but sacrificed physical resilience. The Zocs have unmatched computational abilities but cannot survive outside narrow environmental parameters." She displayed a full human anatomical scan. Humans specialized in not specializing. They can survive in almost any environment, eat almost anything, and adapt to almost any situation. They're inefficient by design, carrying redundant systems and excess capacity that seems wasteful until you realize it gives them extraordinary flexibility. The most disturbing data came from human historical archives, captured during the initial attack. Dr. Krezoth had spent days analyzing Earth's violent past. Countless wars, genocides, and conflicts that should have destroyed them. Instead, they had emerged stronger each time. "They fight themselves constantly," she noted, displaying footage from humanity's world wars. Yet instead of extinction, these conflicts accelerated their technological development. They went from primitive flight to nuclear weapons in less than 50 years. Vextor's skin paled slightly. The Council must be informed of the full threat assessment. "I've tried," Dr. Krezoth said, her voice dropping. "They dismissed my preliminary findings. The High Counselor called it xenobiologist hysteria and ordered the invasion to proceed as planned." Meanwhile, on Earth, the transformation continued at an astonishing pace. The reverse-engineered hegemony shield technology had been integrated into defensive installations worldwide. More impressive was the rapid adaptation of alien propulsion systems for Earth's fledgling space fleet. At Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, Dr. Marcus Wong led a multinational team working to retrofit existing spacecraft with hegemony drive systems. What should have taken years was being accomplished in days. The aliens built their technology to be intuitive to their physiology and psychology, Dr. Wong explained to visiting military officials. But that's actually their weakness. We think differently, approach problems differently. We're finding applications they never considered. In an adjacent hangar, Colonel Sophia Patel supervised the training of Earth's first space combat pilots. Using simulators built from captured hegemony data, these pilots, drawn from air forces worldwide, were learning to exploit weaknesses in alien combat doctrine. "They fight like machines," Colonel Patel told her students. "Predictable, optimal patterns following mathematical models. We'll fight like humans, unpredictable, adaptive, and willing to take risks they'd never consider." The most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected source. 16-year-old prodigy Hiroshi Nakamura, working from his family's apartment in Tokyo, decoded the fundamental algorithms of hegemony communication protocols. His simple but elegant solution, posted on an international collaboration forum, allowed Earth's defenders to intercept and decrypt enemy transmissions. When General Rodriguez presented this intelligence windfall to the Security Council, she highlighted its source. A teenager with a laptop accomplished what the aliens thought impossible. This is humanity's advantage. We're not bound by traditional thinking or hierarchical structures. Ideas can come from anywhere. As Dr. Krezoth finalized her report to the skeptical Hegemony Council, she included a warning that would go unheeded. "These humans represent an evolutionary path we have never encountered before. They are dangerous not because of their technology, but because of how they think. Underestimate them at your peril. The Alpha Centauri outpost fell silent as Admiral Vasquez's fleet secured the orbital platforms. On the command deck of the UES Defiance, tactical displays showed the final hegemony cruisers retreating into deep space. The victory was complete, but Vasquez knew they had little time to celebrate. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the exhaustion of the 3-day battle. Commander Jackson gestured to the holographic display. 7 hegemony vessels captured intact. Their databases are being decrypted now. Casualty reports still coming in, but preliminary numbers suggest we lost 14 ships and approximately 800 personnel. Vasquez nodded grimly. Every loss hurt, but they had achieved what many considered impossible: humanity's first offensive victory against the hegemony. More importantly, they had secured a foothold beyond Earth's solar system. "Begin converting the outpost," she ordered. "I want our engineers reinforcing the defenses within 24 hours. The hegemony will send a response fleet as soon as word reaches them." Below on the outpost's surface, Captain Miguel Santos led the ground forces securing the alien installation. The vast complex had served as the hegemony's forward operating base in this sector, housing thousands of troops and administrative personnel. Now those aliens who hadn't evacuated were being held in makeshift detention areas. "They still don't understand how we did it," Santos remarked to Lieutenant Chen as they inspected a captured weapons depot. "Look at their faces. They're not just defeated. They're confused." The lieutenant observed the hegemony officers behind the containment field. Their rigid posture and uniformly stunned expressions revealed their incomprehension. Their entire military doctrine assumes technological superiority dictates outcomes. We just violated their fundamental understanding of warfare. Santos nodded. And that's exactly why Admiral Vasquez pushed for this attack. We needed to shatter their assumptions before they could bring their full force against Earth. The most valuable prize from the outpost wasn't the technology or the strategic position. It was information. In the central data hub, Dr. Eliza Okoro led a team of Earth's top computer scientists in extracting the hegemony's tactical networks. "This is incredible," she breathed, as star maps and fleet positions materialized before her. "They've given us access to their entire command and control infrastructure for this sector." The breakthrough came when they discovered the hegemony's communication protocols relied on quantum entanglement, instantaneous transmission across vast distances. By capturing these systems intact, humanity gained the ability to monitor enemy communications and, potentially, feed false information back to hegemony command. Most surprising was what they found in the administrative databases: detailed records of hundreds of enslaved worlds and subjugated species. The hegemony's empire was far larger than Earth had realized, but it was also far more fragile. Reports revealed widespread unrest on dozens of worlds, suppressed only by overwhelming force and the perception of hegemony invincibility. When this information reached Earth, the United Nations Security Council immediately recognized its significance. "This isn't just about defending our planet anymore," the Secretary General told the emergency session. "We've stumbled into a galaxy-wide struggle for liberation." Admiral Vasquez understood this shift in perspective as she recorded her message to the hegemony fleet. Broadcast on all frequencies using their own communication systems, her words were carefully chosen. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of Earth. Today we have liberated the Alpha Centauri system from hegemony control. We did not start this conflict, but we intend to finish it. To all subjugated peoples receiving this transmission, humanity stands with you. The hegemony is not invincible. They can be defeated, and together we will defeat them." As the message propagated through captured relay stations, reaching deep into hegemony territory, no one could predict how many worlds would hear it, or how many would answer the call. On Terrace 9, the rebellion spread from the central mining complex to the outlying settlements with remarkable speed. Elder Korvax, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming in the light of the planet's 3 moons, climbed atop a disabled hegemony patrol vehicle to address the gathered crowd. "For 12 generations, we have mined balsite crystal for the Empire," he called out, his voice amplified by the natural resonance of his species' vocal chambers. "They told us we were fortunate to serve, that protection from the dangers of the galaxy was worth our servitude. Now humans have shown us the truth. The greatest danger was always the hegemony itself." The assembled Tarusians raised their mining tools in a gesture of solidarity. What had begun as a work stoppage had evolved into full-scale insurrection as the planetary garrison found itself overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of the formerly docile miners. Dr. Sanjay Mehta watched from the edge of the gathering, his environmental suit necessary in the methane-rich atmosphere of Terrace 9. Beside him stood Commander Lakshmi Patel of the UES Horizon, the first Earth vessel to make contact with the Tarusian resistance. "They've organized faster than we anticipated," Patel observed. 3 days from first contact to planetary liberation." Mehta nodded, monitoring the translation feed from the Tarusian assembly. The hegemony made a fundamental miscalculation. They assumed species would remain compliant through fear, but fear only works when there's no alternative. Once we showed them victory was possible. He gestured to the celebrations erupting across the settlement as news arrived of another guard post surrendering without resistance. The hegemony's control had been built on perceived invincibility. Once that perception shattered, their actual forces proved surprisingly limited. The most significant moment came when the Tarusian elders formally requested alliance with Earth and the growing coalition of free worlds. The signing ceremony, conducted in the former governor's palace, was broadcast across the region using modified hegemony communication arrays. "We offer not dominion but partnership," Mehta told the assembly, carefully following the ceremonial phrases that had been hastily adapted from Tarusian traditions. "Earth seeks allies, not subjects. Together we stand stronger than either of us alone." The alliance formed that day would soon be tested. Hegemony High Command, upon receiving reports of the Tarusian uprising, dispatched a suppression fleet, 5 battlecruisers, and their support vessels, a force that would normally terrify any rebellious world into immediate surrender. What they hadn't anticipated was the presence of 2 Earth vessels in orbit. Commander Patel's Horizon, along with Captain Guian's Intrepid, faced odds that seemed impossible. 5 battlecruisers against 2 human ships. "Conventional tactics won't work here," Patel told her crew as the enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace. "They expect us to retreat or be destroyed. Instead, we're going to demonstrate why humans are the worst enemy the hegemony could have made." What followed became known as the Miracle at Terrace 9. Using maneuvers that violated standard space combat doctrine, the Horizon and Intrepid executed a series of high-velocity attack runs that confused the hegemony formation. When the battlecruisers adjusted to defend against this approach, the human vessels abruptly changed tactics, using Terrace 9's unusual magnetic field to mask suicide drone deployments. The drones, repurposed mining equipment loaded with explosives, penetrated the flagship's shields at precisely coordinated points. The resulting cascade failure left the massive vessel dead in space. Before the remaining ships could react, the Horizon executed an emergency hyperspace jump that positioned it directly between 2 cruisers, firing all weapons systems simultaneously. 3 hours after the battle began, the remnants of the hegemony fleet retreated in disarray, leaving 2 destroyed battlecruisers and 1 captured. The cost had been high. The Intrepid suffered critical damage, and the Horizon lost a third of its crew. But the message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity would stand with its allies, no matter the odds. Admiral Vin paced the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, as holographic displays showed the scattered remnants of his once mighty fleet. 3 weeks into what should have been a decisive campaign, the Grand Armada had lost over 200 vessels without capturing a single significant Earth installation. "They shouldn't be able to do this," Vin muttered, studying the latest battle reports. "Their technology is inferior, their numbers limited. By every tactical model, they should have surrendered after the first wave." His tactical officer, a veteran of a dozen campaigns, looked up from her console. "Sir, we've detected unusual energy readings from Mercury. The humans appear to be channeling solar emissions through some kind of focusing array." Before Vin could respond, proximity alarms blared across the command deck. "Multiple human vessels approaching from Saturn's rings," another officer reported. "They're using the ice debris as cover. Our sensors didn't detect them until now." The attack came from 3 directions simultaneously. Earth ships emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system, coordinating their assault with precision that belied their supposedly primitive status. Most disturbing were the vessels that appeared to be hybridized versions of hegemony designs. Humans had not just studied captured technology, they had improved upon it. Commander Zhou Chen led the Jupiter Strike Force, her flagship Eclipse moving through the gas giant's turbulent upper atmosphere, a maneuver hegemony ships couldn't replicate without risking structural failure. Her fleet of 30 vessels, hidden within Jupiter's vast storms for days, now erupted into open space behind the enemy's defensive line. "Target their command and control nodes," Chen ordered as her ships accelerated toward the heart of the Grand Armada. "Cut off their ability to coordinate, then isolate individual battle groups." The human strategy became clear as the battle progressed. They weren't trying to match the hegemony's firepower. Instead, they were systematically disrupting the enemy's ability to bring that firepower to bear effectively. Precision strikes disabled communication systems. Electronic warfare packages introduced conflicting orders into the hegemony command network. Kinetic impactors launched from Earth's lunar bases created debris fields that forced enemy ships into predictable evasion patterns. The decisive moment came when Project Sunfire activated. The massive solar collectors around Mercury, which had been gathering energy for days, channeled the concentrated power of Earth's star into coherent beams that overwhelmed even the strongest hegemony shields. As these weapons fired, human forces pulled back in coordinated retreat, leaving the enemy fleet silhouetted against the blinding light. Energy surge detected. Vin's science officer shouted in alarm. "Radiation levels exceeding safe parameters. Our shields cannot compensate." Vin watched in disbelief as the nearest hegemony battle group was engulfed in searing light. When the glare subsided, 15 capital ships drifted powerless, their systems overloaded by the unprecedented energy discharge. "Impossible," he whispered, witnessing a level of cooperation and sacrifice no hegemony strategist had anticipated. Human ships had positioned themselves in harm's way to force enemy vessels into Sunfire's targeting zone, accepting casualties to ensure maximum effect. At that moment, the most devastating blow came not from weapons, but from Earth's Cyber Warfare Division. Led by Zara Chen, they had spent weeks infiltrating the hegemony's battle network through vulnerabilities identified in captured vessels. As Sunfire's attack created confusion, they activated their dormant programs. Across 1/3 of the Grand Armada, control systems suddenly responded to human commands rather than their own officers. Weapons powered down. Engines initiated emergency shutdowns. Life support systems cycled into maintenance mode. Ships that had been attacking Earth forces moments before now drifted helpless in space. In his command chair, Admiral Vin received the transmission that would mark the beginning of the end for hegemony dominance. The human admiral's voice was calm, almost conversational. "This is General Maria Santos of Earth Defense Command. Your ships are disabled, your strategies countered. We offer you this choice. Surrender and live, or continue and be destroyed. Unlike you, we prefer not to annihilate those we can call friends tomorrow." The Allied fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus system, the heart of hegemony power. 63 vessels representing 17 formerly subjugated species arranged themselves in defensive formation as sensors scanned the space ahead. At the center of the formation, the Earth flagship Endeavour carried the operations architects, Dr. Fatima O'Keek and her team of anthropologists, linguists, and information warfare specialists. "Preliminary scans confirm our intelligence," reported Lieutenant Commander David Park at the sensor station. Nexus Prime orbital defenses are active but dispersed. They're dealing with multiple planetary uprisings. General Maria Santos nodded, studying the tactical display. After the victory at Earth, she had been given command of this mission, not because of her military expertise, but because of her understanding of the human philosophy guiding their strategy. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. "All ships maintain distance from defensive perimeters. This isn't about military victory." Dr. O'Keefe stepped forward, her team already connecting their specialized equipment to the ship's communication array. For months, they had studied every aspect of hegemony culture, their symbols, myths, hierarchies, and most importantly, the foundations of their authority. "The transmission is ready," O'Keefe said. "We've incorporated footage from 23 liberated worlds, testimonials from former hegemony officers, and evidence of council deception dating back 3 centuries. Santos gave the authorization, and Operation Lighthouse began. The transmission bypassed conventional hegemony security through protocols developed by Earth hackers, spreading simultaneously across all Imperial communication channels. For the first time in millennia, the truth reached every corner of the Empire without filtration or censorship. On Nexus Prime, the reaction was immediate and dramatic. The carefully maintained social hierarchy began to fracture as lower castes saw proof that the Council's claims of invincibility were lies. Public view screens in the capital city, normally showing only approved content, displayed scenes of hegemony defeats and successful rebellions. Most devastating was the inclusion of internal council communications, obtained from captured officers, revealing their deliberate suppression of technological advancement among subject worlds, and even among lower hegemony castes. The ruling elite had maintained power not through superior ability, but through systematic information control. Krell the Unbroken, who had joined the Allied fleet after liberating his homeworld, watched the planetary censors with growing emotion. "My people suffered for generations believing resistance was futile," he said, his voice rough. "How many died never knowing freedom was possible?" On the Endeavor's communication deck, specialist Sophia Lynn monitored the spreading information cascade. "It's working faster than we projected," she reported. "Civilian communication networks are amplifying our transmission. They're adding their own stories of oppression and connecting across planetary boundaries." The most unexpected development came from within the hegemony military itself. Junior officers, many from lower castes who had risen through merit rather than birth, began questioning orders. On 3 orbital defense platforms, crews disabled their weapons rather than fire on civilian targets. "They're broadcasting on our frequency," Lynn announced suddenly. "It's coming from the surface, specifically from the path of ascension, their main governmental avenue." On the main view screen, the transmission showed thousands of beings, hegemony citizens from all castes, surrounding the towering council citadel. Their chants, translated by the ship's computer, demanded answers and accountability from leaders who had claimed infallibility. Dr. O'Keefe turned to General Santos, her expression solemn. "This is the true power of humanity's approach. We didn't need to destroy their civilization to defeat their empire. Truth itself became our most powerful weapon." As the Endeavor moved closer to Nexus Prime, now accompanied by ships of defecting hegemony officers, Santos prepared for the next phase of the operation, face-to-face confrontation with the Council that had ruled 1,000 worlds through fear and deception. "Send the message," she instructed. "Tell them humanity comes not for vengeance, but for justice, not just for ourselves, but for every species that has suffered under their rule." The proposed Galactic Commonwealth faced its first major test 3 months after the fall of the hegemony. Representatives from over 200 formerly subjugated worlds gathered on Earth's moon for the first conclave, a meeting that would determine whether cooperation could truly replace conquest as the organizing principle of galactic civilization. Dr. Thomas Okafor stood at the center of the vast circular chamber constructed specifically for this historic gathering. Around him, delegates of wildly varying physiologies and evolutionary backgrounds watched with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "The easy part is over," Okafor began, his voice translated simultaneously into 73 languages. Defeating a common enemy unified us temporarily, but building something lasting requires more than shared opposition. It requires shared vision. The challenges were immense. Some species demanded reparations from former hegemony worlds. Others sought to establish their own regional dominance. Resource disputes that had been suppressed under imperial rule now emerged as potential flashpoints. The most contentious issue arose when the Draxi Confederation, representing 40 resource-rich systems, proposed a weighted voting system that would give them disproportionate influence. Their ambassador, a towering insectoid being, argued that their economic contributions justified greater political power. This is precisely how the hegemony began, countered Ambassador Linneverth. Equal standing must be our foundation, or we simply replace one form of domination with another. The debate raged for days, with several delegations threatening to withdraw from the proceedings. The Commonwealth seemed on the verge of collapse before it had truly begun. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Captain Janway, who had spent years helping the Draxians transition to self-governance, requested permission to address the conclave. Though not an official diplomat, his deep understanding of both human and Draxian cultural frameworks gave his words unique weight. On Earth, we have a concept called the tragedy of the commons, Jiang explained. When each actor pursues only their self-interest, resources that could benefit all are ultimately destroyed. Our history is filled with examples of this failure, and examples of how we overcame it. He projected images of Earth's environmental restoration projects, showing how former adversaries had collaborated to reverse centuries of damage. The hegemony ruled through zero-sum thinking. Someone must dominate, someone must submit. Humanity survived because we learned, painfully, that mutual benefit is possible. The Draxian ambassador's antennae quivered in what humans had learned was a sign of deep thought. Your species nearly destroyed itself multiple times. Why should we follow your model? Precisely because we nearly destroyed ourselves, Jiang replied. We've made every mistake possible, fought wars over resources, ideology, and mere pride. We faced extinction from our own actions, and because of this, we understand better than most the cost of failing to cooperate. For the next week, human representatives shared Earth's history openly, not just achievements, but failures, genocides, environmental disasters, and near annihilations. This radical transparency resonated with species who had only seen humanity as victorious warriors against the hegemony. Slowly, compromise emerged. The Commonwealth would have multiple governing bodies with distributed powers. Economic, judicial, and military authority would be separated. No single species would control any branch completely. Most importantly, the rights of individual worlds to maintain their cultural identity would be sacrosanct. When the conclave finally voted on the Commonwealth Charter, the approval was unanimous. As delegates filed out of the chamber, the Draxian ambassador approached Captain Jiang. "Your species confuses me," the ambassador admitted. "You're powerful enough now to establish your own empire, yet you deliberately limit your authority." Jiang smiled. Power over others isn't what humans ultimately want. We want connection, meaning, and progress. True power comes from building something together that none of us could create alone. As the centennial celebration of First Contact reached its pinnacle, the activation of the Harmony Network represented more than just a technological achievement. The massive quantum entanglement system, built through collaboration between dozens of species, symbolized the new galactic order that had replaced hegemony tyranny. On the observation platform of the Mars Nexus facility, Supreme Chancellor Kalazin watched the final connections being established. Born to the highest caste of the former hegemony, she had been a child when her civilization collapsed. Now, she led the most diverse governing body in known history. "My ancestors would not recognize the galaxy we've built," she remarked to the human standing beside her. Dr. Eliza Chen, now in her 80s and one of the last surviving members of Earth's First Contact generation, smiled at the irony. That's precisely what makes it wonderful. Below them, in the vast circular chamber housing the network's core processors, engineers from 17 species made final adjustments to the system designed to connect minds across unfathomable distances. The Mindurians contributed their unique understanding of thought patterns. The silicon-based lithoi provided crystal matrices that could store quantum states indefinitely. Humans added the adaptive algorithms that allowed the system to evolve and improve over time. "We're ready for activation," announced Chief Engineer Kovac, a Terusian whose ancestors had once been slaves in hegemony mines. As the countdown commenced, view screens across the Commonwealth showed the ceremony to trillions of beings on thousands of worlds. The network represented more than faster communication. It would allow real-time translation between any languages, instantaneous sharing of scientific discoveries, and collaborative problem-solving across vast distances. Activation in 3, 2, 1. The Harmony Network came online with a subtle hum. No dramatic light show, no thunderous activation sequence, just a quiet technological revolution that instantly connected billions of minds across the galaxy. The first transmission came from a school on Draxus IV, where children of a dozen species sent a simple message of greeting that appeared simultaneously on every Commonwealth world. Their faces, each unique in form, but united in purpose, symbolized a future unimaginable a century earlier. In the great archives on Earth, the most visited exhibit remained a simple historical display. Commander Zixper's original threat assessment of humanity after first contact. His words had proven more prophetic than he could have imagined. "This species possesses a unique combination of traits I have not encountered in 10,000 years of service. They adapt with extraordinary speed. They cooperate instinctively in crisis. Most concerning of all, they seem incapable of accepting their limitations. They simply refuse to acknowledge when they are outmatched. If not contained immediately, humans may fundamentally alter the balance of power in this sector." Beside this assessment stood Earth's first official communication to the galaxy after the hegemony's defeat, the foundation principles of what would become the Commonwealth. "We come not as conquerors, but as neighbors. We offer not dominance, but partnership. We seek not subjects, but allies. The universe is vast enough for all to thrive, if only we have the wisdom to cooperate rather than compete." Young humans now routinely left Earth to live among the stars, often forming deep connections with species that would have been unimaginable to their grandparents. Human adaptive psychology made them natural diplomats, their flexible thinking ideal for solving complex problems that crossed species boundaries. Nika Williams, a 22-year-old pathfinder from New Zealand, exemplified this new generation. Leading a team of explorers from 6 different species, he specialized in making first contact with newly discovered civilizations at the galaxy's edge. "The greatest gift humans brought to the universe wasn't our technology or even our military strategy," Supreme Chancellor Kalazin told the Centennial Gathering. "It was your capacity to imagine different futures and then bring others together to build them. You showed us that power doesn't have to corrupt, that diversity creates strength, and that cooperation can accomplish more than conquest ever could."